Well, the White House has announced it will send $450 million in new military aid to Ukraine. The Pentagon has confirmed the package will include anti-aircraft missiles, cluster munitions and artillery and ammunition rounds. The funding package comes months after a warning from defence officials there was no money left.
This is possible because of unanticipated cost savings in contracts that DoD negotiated to replace equipment we've already sent to Ukraine through previous drawdowns. This ammunition will keep Ukraine's guns firing for a period, but only a short period. It is nowhere near enough to meet Ukraine's battlefield needs, and it will not prevent Ukraine from running out of ammunition in the weeks to come.
For more, joining us live is Matthew Sussex from the ANU's Strategic and Defence Studies Centre. Matthew, always good to see you. Thanks for your time. What would happen if the US stops supporting Ukraine? Because under any future Donald Trump presidency, well, that could be up in the air, couldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, Ash. If Trump wins the presidency, he's unlikely to continue to open the aid tap to Ukraine at all. In fact, more than likely to turn it completely off. So I think there's probably some scrambling being done in the Biden administration just to kind of shore up support for Ukraine for the moment until the bigger bill for funding Ukraine that they have comes to the floor of the House in Congress. But you know, there's no guarantee that will actually happen. So the current announcement is only, I think, a drop in the bucket of what Ukraine is fundamentally going to need as the conflict drags on.
And as the conflict drags on, what are things looking like there? It sounds like Moscow's made a series of recent gains in the east of the country.
Yeah, that's right. The Russians have, I suppose, incrementally advanced a little bit and managed to capture one town effectively by levelling it. And it did look as though that the Ukrainians were rapidly running out of ammunition. Now, over the last few days, that seems to have stabilised, that the Ukrainians have kind of managed to hold the front line and are also very busy constructing defensive lines of their own, a bit like the Russians did last year, towards the end of last year, in tank traps and things that made Ukraine's own counteroffensive very difficult. So effectively what that means is that not much territory probably is going to change hands as long as Ukraine continues to receive a supply of Western ammunition.
We learnt recently that Putin has sacked his chief of navy. Do we read much into that?
Well, I think that this has possibly been coming for quite a while. This is Admiral Nikolai Yevmenov, who's been in the job since 2019. And of course, he was the one who was held responsible for the incredible Ukrainian successes against the Russian Black Sea Fleet. Of course, the Ukrainians have sunk about 12 Russian warships, most recently a fairly new patrol ship, but some really, really big ships in the Russian Black Sea Fleet, which has forced it really to not be able to conduct too much in terms of offensive maritime operations. So I suspect that Yevmenov was the scapegoat, and they've now appointed the head of their northern fleet to see if he can do any better.
We know that European leaders are increasingly concerned about this war spreading. We've just had some news drop on the wires suggesting that Russia's deploying troops and weapons to the Finnish border since they've entered NATO. He's saying that this entry into NATO, Putin's saying, is a meaningless step and that they would do that regardless. Do we need to be concerned about that move?
Well, look, I mean, I think Russia has started rattling the saber again. It seems to be that sort of season. Previously, Putin has exhibited no real interest in Finland and Sweden joining NATO. But of course, that makes NATO's border with Russia bigger by about 12 to 600 kilometres. So it's kind of strange that he's been unconcerned about that in the past and has only suddenly realised it. I think the truth is that the Russian armed forces have not an awful lot they can put in the way facing the Finns in particular, because they've lost around about 90% of the ground forces that they started the war in Ukraine with, and have had to make all those the rest up with mobilized people. So, 450,000 people currently in the Ukrainian theatre, that is Russian service people, and really not very much in terms of a bare cupboard in the rest of Russia.
Matthew Sussex, appreciate your analysis as always. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Ash.